Tech News Weekly is sponsored by Hover.com. Go to gfu.hover.com and get 10% off your entire purchase. FreshBooks. FreshBooks is an easy-to-use online invoicing service that saves you time, gets you paid faster, and makes you look professional. Get started completely for free at FreshBooks.com. And by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook by going to audiblepodcast.com/GFQ.
Starting Tech News Weekly in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, everybody, to Tech News Weekly. It is nearly the end of 2011. 2 more shows left, including this one, so 1 more outside of this one. I am Adrian Zarian, and I'm joined by Suncast, as I am each and every week. How you doing, Suncast?
Hey, Andrew, what's up?
Good, nothing much. Getting ready for Christmas.
I thought you hated Christmas.
I don't like anything that involves me speaking to anybody.
Oh,
So,
I see.
my
You
favorite-
don't like the Christmas party stuff.
No. Too much. Too much
But
to
they
deal
have
with.
booze.
They do have booze, and that's the only thing worth waiting for. But it is nearly Christmas here. We did some changes already to the studio. For people who don't know, we got 2 new couches. We're going to be doing
They're
remodeling.
not couches.
They're chairs.
They're
Leather-
chairs.
leather
You got to
chairs.
learn the difference here.
They're old couches to me. So we're going to be doing some changes. Suncast and I were discussing what he's going to do on his end. So a lot of things coming up in 2012. Considering it's the end of the world, but a lot of stuff going to happen. A lot's been happening. Next week, the news has been slowing down as we approach the end of the year. But next week, we are going to be doing a recap show of everything that happened in 2012, the top stories. I'm sure Eric is going to be joining us. Suncast will join us. And we also are trying to get one more
sort
guest.
of a year-end review, kind of
Yeah.
our final thoughts of 2011.
Because a lot happened this year. I mean, a lot
yeah.
happened.
And it's crazy because I have notes going all the way back to March and February, and it's just wow, that was so long ago.
I actually, one story that's been going on for quite a few months, and it's the AT&T T-Mobile merger, and it finally ended. With the year ending, that story also ended because they are not merging. It is dead.
No, it's more or less been dead for a few weeks now.
Which,
ever since first it was Department of Justice saying, "Well, we're gonna hand this up to the courts because we don't think this is a good idea," and then the FCC also said, "Oh, we don't think this is a good idea either," and so AT&T was kind of like, well, neither of you think it's a good idea. What the hell are we supposed to do?
Yeah. But it was fascinating because they were very sure that this was going to happen, even to the point that they have a $4 billion breakup clause that we've discussed quite a few times here. But there's new developments here. And I do want to discuss what the options are and what will potentially happen now that this is not happening. T-Mobile,
where does AT&T and T-Mobile go from here, basically?
Yeah, T-Mobile, which is owned by Deutsche Telekom. Deutsche Telekom has made it very clear that they wanted to get rid of T-Mobile, I should say, for some time now. And this kind of puts a damper in the entire thing. And they even took the stance that, well, listen, if we do not merge, we don't know if we could continue operating in the U.S. We don't know if this is going to work. So there's different options here and different scenarios that'll probably play out in 2012. Either they're going to sell their spectrum, they're going to fold, and AT&T will buy everything. Another company will come and buy them and continue running T-Mobile.
There's a couple of companies that are interested in T-Mobile and most importantly, their spectrum. That's the big deal is T-Mobile spectrum, which is kind of odd because it's these companies don't necessarily care about the customers. They care about the spectrum. The spectrum is what's really important to them.
But
not
by the
so
way,
much the customers.
By the way, if early in this year when this story broke, you did not think it was about the spectrum. I mean, analysts really were not concentrating. People that know the tech industry really spoke about the spectrum, but the mainstream was really pretty much talking about subscribers and growth, but not really spectrum. But this is almost like, because Verizon last week did a bunch of deals also, this is almost like how Google and Apple are buying companies for patents.
Mm-hmm.
The wireless, the wireless communication companies are buying them for Spectrum.
Yeah. We've seen a number of companies this year sell off and buy spectrum from other companies. AT&T just got a partial win in the fact that they did pick up white space spectrum from Qualcomm.
Yeah, AT&T. And Verizon grabbed Clearwire, I believe.
Yeah.
So
right.
they're buying, they're grabbing everything they could get. But what do you think will happen with T-Mobile in 2012?
Nobody really knows. That's the thing is there's potential paths that they could take or that could happen, but nobody really knows what's going on. There's Leap Wireless and Dish that are both kind of maybe interested in T-Mobile or more importantly, their spectrum and doing something. And so that's one possibility.
But about
aside from that, we don't really know.
But, the whole thing with Deutsche Telekom was that they were claiming that they wouldn't be able to survive, possibly, they're running out of money. T-Mobile's not doing so great,
Right.
but $3 billion in cash.
Yeah, that's incredible. Not only
AT&T
that,
will have to
but
pay
they also
that.
got AWS and UMTS. I think that's what it is, UMTS roaming agreements with AT&T, which actually is interesting because if you look at it, AT&T wanted to buy T-Mobile for their spectrum, yet now it's completely reversed where AT&T is actually giving T-Mobile spectrum, or at least giving them agreements to roam on their spectrum that they have.
Yeah,
So T-Mobile will actually pick up areas where they didn't have service before.
I generally don't like it when the government interferes in companies making decisions and acquisitions, but I think this was a right move. I don't think it's right to have one GSM provider in this country and one CDMA provider in this country. No. Sprint is suffering, and so is T-Mobile.
See, that's what AT&T was arguing. Like, there's plenty of other small GSM carriers out there, like Leap Wireless and Metro PCS, but they're not necessarily GSM.
No, but
they are smaller regional carriers that they say offer the competition that they would take away from T-Mobile if T-Mobile didn't exist.
But isn't the whole CDMA and GSM thing going to fall apart anyway, considering they're all going to LTE at this point?
I have no idea.
I mean, I know there are different types of LTE, and that's the problem with LTE. My LTE and your LTE are not really compatible.
The way that technology has been going with the wireless industry is just you've seen over the past 10 years, it's changed so much.
Sure.
So in the next 5 to 10 years, where are things going to be? We can't even imagine that right now.
Yeah, it's fascinating on how it's changing. But this is, AT&T has had a number of hits this year. I think the fact that Verizon got the iPhone was a massive hit to them. But I would really like to see how many people left AT&T to go to Verizon for the iPhone. Because then you can start putting into play, well, we did lose a lot of subscribers and we do want to grab T-Mobile subscribers. I'm actually a fan of T-Mobile. I think they have decent phones on their platform. I think they have very competitive,
hands down out of all of the carriers.
Very competitive pricing. They just don't have the reach as far as the network goes when it comes to AT&T and Verizon.
Yeah, I mean, in my particular area here at home, I have pretty good signal coverage. There are areas where I'll travel to that aren't very far away from home, 15 minutes away, that I get, some spotty service where I don't have Edge or I don't have 3G, but I'll have GPRS, which is, even slower than Edge, if you can believe it. And it's just, at that point, it's like, well, why can't you have Edge at least in every single antenna array that you have?
Well, the problem here is that T-Mobile does not work at all where I am. I mean, for miles, it won't work. It's just there's nothing, and that's funny because I'm in New York City.
To see if this spectrum sharing agreement
will
help any in your area.
Yeah, that is interesting. But even now, there's a whole separate story because there's a story that Dish and AT&T might team up on something because Dish has unveiled plans to build a 4G LTE advanced network for mobile video service that they plan on launching.
They desperately want to get into the mobile market with their video and calling and all that stuff, and so they're desperately wanting to partner up with some sort of company like AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, or T-Mobile. And they said that they're more keen on partnering with T-Mobile than they are with AT&T.
So the what they're trying to do, from what I understand, they want to launch a mobile video service. And the service piggybacks on LTE, so it's IPTV.
Yeah.
how are they going to do the regulation on that? Because many of these services that they're doing, there's caps. So is it only going to be exclusively on their 4G network, or is it going to be spread amongst all of them? That I found that very fascinating.
I would suppose maybe, much like Verizon and AT&T have their own video service, that those services will be exempt from
from data.
From the caps.
Yeah,
that would be the way that I can logically see it going.
I'll be honest, I have 4G with my new phone, the Nexus, and we do have some stories about the Nexus that are going to come up. A couple of negative stories, actually. But the 4G is phenomenal. I mean, for what I'm getting here in New York, the speed is so fast. I've done multiple speed tests on this thing, and I have no way of proving that these are extremely accurate because I've done different servers everywhere, and I'm getting over 20 megabits a second download and 5.5 megabits a second upload. That is more than what Suncast has.
Comparable. Yeah,
that is what I have.
What you get at home.
That is what I have on one of my file signs. Again, I don't know how accurate it is. This is what I've done with the speed tests. I've tried different types of speed tests, and I've gotten the same rate on 4G. How can they have something so powerful and so fast intended for video use? I mean, why else have that speed? Media consumption,
web
and
browsing.
have tremendous caps to the point where it's 5 gigs.
Yeah, see, that's what I don't understand either. It's just, you go and you charge $25 or $30 for 2 gigabytes, and you expect us to stay within that limit and not go over.
Is it 2 gigs or 5 gigs?
I believe on Verizon it's 2 gigs for $30.
Huh. I'm curious now because on my phone it's set to 5 to alert me that I've gone over it.
Yeah.
So I'm curious on what the rate is for their LTE. But I mean, isn't that ridiculous? Because they do sell those LTE packs, those 4G wireless cards. But I know those are a little bit more. I think you're getting like 5 gigs with that. But again, you're capping it. Which is mind-blowing.
With AT&T, they've now started throttling the top 5% on the grandfathered unlimited plans that they have.
Yeah.
So even though you're grandfathered into those unlimited data plans, it's not exactly unlimited because they are throttling you now.
So the deal that T-Mobile and AT&T have now, it's a 7-year UMTS roaming agreement.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a long time, too.
It's a very long time, yeah. And they're saying carrier population coverage will increase from 230 million potential customers at the present to 280 million. So, I mean, it's not a huge boost, but it is to some extent for T-Mobile. T-Mobile US will also receive a large package of AWS mobile spectrum in 128 cellular markets, including 12 of the top 20 markets: Los Angeles, Dallas, Houston, Atlanta, Washington, Boston, San Francisco, Phoenix, San Diego, Denver, Baltimore, and Seattle. And Deutsche Telekom will also be getting $3 billion in cash. This might, this
here's
breakup.
what I wonder, though, is that it says that Deutsche Telekom is getting the $3 billion.
Yeah.
But what are they going to do with it? Does that money actually go to T-Mobile USA, or are they going to use it for whatever they feel like using it, not necessarily T-Mobile USA?
Well, here's the interesting thing about this. If you were Deutsche Telekom and you know your company is kind of falling apart, and you don't know how much longer you have, with $3 billion in cash, there's a lot that you could do to invest. You can invest in infrastructure, you can invest in marketing, you can invest in everything you could possibly imagine. But what is holding T-Mobile
back? I saw today, I forget which article I read. They were saying about some obscene amount of money, millions, and I don't know if it was millions or billions of dollars that they said that it would cost T-Mobile to bring their infrastructure up to scratch. Let me see if I can find that real quick.
And I do believe that is the biggest uphill battle that T-Mobile faces, the fact that they have a lot of dead spots here in the country. That's pretty much what's hurting T-Mobile. I don't think the pricing is the most competitive that I've ever seen. They have decent phones on there. Of course, they're lacking the iPhone, which is a huge sell, but I don't know what else they could possibly do to survive. That's the interesting thing. It's not that they're not competitive. They're extremely competitive, and they're doing better than the other ones. But you take that $3 billion, you build infrastructure, and there's no guarantee on that.
Yeah.
So it is interesting. And we're going to see how it plays out in 2012 because it's going to be fascinating. And I hope it does survive because Even though I don't have T-Mobile, I am a fan of the service because they are competing. And they're doing something outside of the box. Because if you look at AT&T, Sprint, and Verizon, they're pretty much following the same type of pricing structure.
Yeah, I mean, I have a personal dilemma with all this stuff because, like, I want to upgrade to a new phone, but it's not necessarily my problem. Isn't necessarily the cost of the phone; it's the cost of the service. And for me, T-Mobile is the best option. I don't necessarily care for any of the service plans that either AT&T, or Sprint and Verizon have.
Sure.
So if there's no T-Mobile, where do I go? Metro PCS, and that's yet another problem where you're having a smaller carrier that doesn't have the same footprint as these national carriers do.
Yeah. To go into the next story, the Galaxy Nexus is reporting a lot of issues. AntennaGate, claiming that the signal indicator. I know. Claiming that the signal indicator is to blame. Now, this story broke out early in the week. I have been doing a bunch of reviews on this phone and a bunch of tips and tricks. If you go to guysfromqueens.com, you can find them there. They have quite a few thousand people who have seen it, and I thank everybody for spreading out the information. So I've done a couple of these things, but I did notice that the antenna, the signal's not that strong. Even though I have bad service, it's still not strong. Well, at first, Verizon said, well, there's a software fix. We're going to fix it. We realize there's a problem. We'll get it fixed within the next couple of weeks. Then they said, well, it's not really a service issue. It's the signal indicator that's the problem. So is there a fix not coming? Or
see, that's the funny part is that they say, oh, yeah, we got a fix coming for this signal problem. And then they turn around 2 days later, oh, there's no problem. It's just, something with the antenna.
Yeah, so they pretty much changed
it's
what
a
they were
false
saying.
positive.
Yeah, they pretty much changed what they were saying. But
there's nothing wrong with the antenna. It was nothing all along.
They also are reporting that there's reports of touchscreen troubles. And I have to tell you this, I did experience the touchscreen issue.
Really?
Yeah, I was playing a game, and I'll tell you the game right now. I was playing Heavy Gunner. So pretty much what you do, you shoot stuff. And you use 2 fingers to control the guns, left and right. When I do when I do one by one, it works fine. But when I put 2 fingers on there and I try to control the gun, one stops moving. And I thought it was me at first, and I read the story, and I said, that's interesting. I'm going to try it again. And I've tried it multiple times, and there are times that it just stops working. So you got to pick your finger up, tap it again, and it'll work again for a little bit and stop.
That's weird.
So there is a
By
problem.
the way, I
with
did
that.
find that number for the T-Mobile to bring it up to scratch.
Oh, what was it?
They said it would take about $9 billion.
To fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of money.
And they're only getting maybe 3 or 4.
They're getting 3 or 4. There's going to be some sort of revenue
Which would only
created.
be about a third of what they would need.
Yeah, listen, hit the heavy markets. This is the thing that baffles me about these companies. Make sure your main markets, the top 20 markets, are working perfectly fine. Which I think that's what's going to happen with this deal now with AT&T. They're going to start covering these markets. So if they cover those markets plus have that $3 billion in cash, they can invest another $2 billion in revenue in infrastructure and take the rest. That's cash on hand, and it's also marketing. There's so much more you could do with it. You could sign different deals. Or they could be like Sprint and just give money, millions of dollars to Apple and get the phone. That's not even selling on your platform. But back to the Galaxy, these things happen. When a new phone comes out, we do see issues like this. It's the first version, first gen of this device on a operating system
Google
that's first.
Phones are all one-offs.
They're all one-offs. Okay, yeah, so you're right. They're all one-offs. But as far as the software goes, this is the first version of 4.0.
Yes.
So you're going to see these bugs coming up. The more hardware it's on, the more issues you're going to see, and the more updates we're going to see. And Google's been pretty adamant on releasing updates already. We've seen 2, expecting a 3rd one very soon. And they are saying that there's going to be 2 updates for this, correcting these issues. I have read these reviews, and it's fascinating.
Are we sure?
Yeah.
Are we sure it's just not a false positive of some sort?
Oh, well, it is a false positive for Verizon, but Google is admitting there's a problem. Now, let me ask you something. Do you feel better if there's one big update with a lot of improvements, or would you like these incremental, updates that come from like a Windows or something?
You know what? It depends. And it depends on how quickly they can make these fixes. Yeah, if they're relatively quick, 1 week we'll have a fix, the next week we'll have another fix. Uh, just roll it all into one, like once a month.
Yeah.
I think anything more frequent than once a month starts to become a hassle.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's like you got to sit there. All right, every week I got to make sure that everything's up to date.
See, I think
It's so much easier if you can just roll it into one monthly update.
sure. See, I think for the consumer, it's a better feeling knowing that there's constant support and they're looking, they're trying to fix it rather than one
No,
big one.
I mean,
every
I
couple
absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, it is interesting though. So hopefully we'll be getting some updates from there. Amazon considering acquiring RIM this summer, but RIM declined. This is a very interesting story. Now, why Amazon would want to acquire RIM, I don't understand. And again, a lot of these analysts, a lot of these people have said, "Well, this is great. Amazon needs its own operating system," which I do agree. I don't think they should really be on Android. I think they would do very well with WebOS. So why not concentrate on WebOS and not RIM? I don't get it. First of all, what are they going to do with RIM? Why do they want RIM? And why not just, go for it? Because they were looking for software. I don't think they're looking for hardware.
See, that's what I don't understand. And when I saw this story, I was like, really? I mean, really?
But there was also stories that Microsoft and Nokia had a meeting and they were discussing the potential option of purchasing RIM.
See, I think it makes. See, I don't understand what Amazon's interest would be in something like RIM. I could potentially see Microsoft and Nokia being interested in all the enterprise stuff. I could totally see that.
Sure. Okay.
And that to me seems like it would be a pretty good fit. But
that again is a far-fetched idea, considering Microsoft has this phenomenal mobile platform.
RIM is a very arrogant company, and they're very much about themselves, and they don't see themselves ever selling out to anybody. They're king of the hill, and they'll put the blinders on so that they can't see anything else.
Yeah, they had 50% of the market share. Now they're down to just a tiny fraction of that.
We're sticking to our guns. We can make it on our own.
Yeah, this company is semi falling apart, and it's very fascinating to see because we do not learn from history. I mean, it's evident here when they should be looking at Palm circa 2005 to 2010.
Yeah, and
they
there's
have
several
to.
reasons why you wouldn't want to buy a company like RIM right now. It's because they're in that transitional period between their old operating system and their new operating system based on QNX. So they're very unstable, and it's very unsure what's going to happen in the next year or two with RIM and BlackBerry brand.
Well, they are
actually say
experiencing
that
problems.
selling the company or an economic joint venture is probably not in the cards right now.
But
that's according to the source.
But let me ask you
until
this.
you stabilize the platform, people are going to be very nervous about spending $10 billion or more.
But let me
which I
ask you
totally
this question.
agree with.
When you're RIM, right, they just experienced, there was a big story out, I believe CNET was one of the main ones that really broke it, that they lied and they said the reason why there's a delay, they made it up. There's a delay in the release of BlackBerry 10, which was BBX, and they lost the name, which was formerly QNX.
Well, this is confusing, and this is actually more of a he said, she said kind of a deal where we're taking a source's word and saying, oh, that's what it is. But then you actually have RIM coming out saying, oh, that's not true at all. So you really don't have any sort of basis to form the truth on. You have no idea what side is true.
I don't know. Where do you see this company going? I mean, 2012 will be a make or break year for them. If they don't put out something phenomenal and keep whatever market share they have, they're going to be suffering.
I see them in the same boat as Palm right now, honestly, because there's very much a parallel between where Palm was and where RIM is now, in the sense that, all right, we're going to come out with all this great WebOS devices, and that's going to be our savior. RIM's doing the same exact thing. We're going to come out with all these new QNX superphones, and that's going to be our new ship, our new sail for the win.
Yeah, but don't you think they're in a worse situation considering the fact that when Palm started falling apart, and that was only due to the iPhone's success and the iPhone's app store, it was only one guy doing it. when they really got hit hard. RAM has
I'm
to
not sure.
face. RAM has an uphill battle with the iPhone. Has an uphill battle with Android. Has an uphill battle with Windows Phone. WebOS could potentially make a comeback
Well, yeah,
in
I can see
2012.
that. I mean, because you do have Windows Phone now, but
I mean,
not
and
that that's a big competitor.
it's not a big competitor, but we also are thinking in 2012. WebOS could make this dramatic comeback.
It could.
It
but
can.
It's very unlikely.
You know what? I do think they're going to have some market share, and I'll tell you why. All these manufacturers are going with Android because it's open source and it's free. But I think if they're given the option, they are willing to try something else. And if I was a company, if I was HTC, I would love to have a WebOS phone and be one of the first ones on the market. It's something different. You're offering something that nobody else is doing. At this
The
point,
consumer's perception of WebOS right now is just like, isn't it dead? I thought it was dead. Why would I want to buy something that's, for all intents purposes, at this moment, dead?
I don't think the consumer knows. I really don't think the consumer cares about branding. I don't think the consumer understands branding. There are people walking in, and this is the problem, right? This is the whole fight between Samsung and Apple. People go into a store and they pick up a Samsung because they identify the iPhone name as the overall name for what it is. They call it. This is the fight. It resembles an iPhone. People don't understand what a difference between iPhone and Android are, and they pick up the one that looks like it. This is why we have things. Everything is called a Xerox, and everything is called Kleenex. And I think to many people, everything is called an iPhone. And I've met so many people like that.
Kleenex and tissues pretty much work the same way.
So does an iPhone. For many people, the iPhone and whatever phone they're getting is the same thing. I think that is the major problem. People don't understand. It's whatever's sold to you better.
True.
I will tell you this, Suncast. I got this phone. I've had numerous people come up to me and say, "Oh, is that the new iPhone?
What?
Is that the new iPhone? Is that the new iPhone?"
It's the iPhone 4S or something?
They don't know. They think the iPhone is they think whatever new phone is an iPhone. They think it's just called an iPhone. Oh, is that an iPhone?
Some idiots.
Yeah, people listen. People are not informed. We're in this.
Does it have a freaking Apple on it? Do you see an Apple
they
logo
don't know.
on it?
They don't know. They don't know. You ask them, well, what kind of computer do you have? They say Windows. What operating system are you running? They say HP. They don't know. People don't know. They see one brand, and that's what that's what they do.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
And just awful.
Facebook. This was very interesting, and I think there's going to be massive backlash for this. Facebook is thinking about putting sponsored stories in your news feed. So you're going to be doing your news. Suncast went to Subway. Paul Thurrott is having a beer. By the way, would you like to buy a new Nissan? Click here. So we're going to start seeing like that branded we're going to start seeing sponsor stories for branded businesses and pages. So I guess what they're going to do is because we've done the Facebook for like events, we've had sponsors pay for us to put an ad up on Facebook. And I guess you're going to be given an option to say, okay, listen, I want to target not only the side ads, I also want to target the news feed. So in the news feed of people living in Queens, I want you to put a Guys from Queens link in their news feed.
Facebook is a very interesting company in the sense
I think it's a great way to market your products. I think it's a very in-your-face, direct way of marketing. But I do think there's going to be backlash.
That's the problem, is that it's in your face. It's obtrusive.
Sure.
And people don't like that. They don't see. I've seen studies that say people don't mind ads so much as long as they're not in the way.
Well, I think we become numb to them, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
But that totally defeats the purpose of an ad.
Not necessarily. I mean, people. I'll give you an example. AdBlock Plus, the company that makes that, has a new version that they're coming out with that actually lets ads in. It doesn't block all of the ads so long as they're in an area that's not obtrusive to the user.
Okay. Meaning, I guess on the
And
bottom.
that's based on a survey they've done that they've concluded from their user base saying We don't necessarily mind ads so long as they're not in the way of the content that I'm trying to look at.
Okay.
And what Facebook is doing is saying that we're going to put ads in the content that you're trying to look at. It's not going to be on the side. It's
Yeah.
not going to be on the top. It's not going to be on the bottom.
I
They're going
think
to put it right in your face, and it's just going to be annoying. And those are the kind of ads that people want to block.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. I think it's going to be extremely effective.
Sure, it'll be effective for people that don't have an ad blocker.
Is it good? Yeah, I guess and
But
that's
then
most
again,
people.
they also have to worry about, their user base. Their user base is extremely vocal. If they don't like something, they're going to tell you, and they're going to make you change it, because there's been several instances now where Facebook has changed something or implemented something, and the user base on Facebook has said, we don't like that whatsoever, and you better change it or else.
Yeah, see,
We've
this is the
seen that
thing.
multiple times now.
Yeah, we've seen Facebook face privacy issues. We've seen Facebook face issues when they've changed formats and they've changed certain features on their device. This is just another thing that people are going to be upset about. They give an example. One example: if a friend likes the Starbucks page, and the story about it is published in your newsfeed, you may see a sponsored story about Starbucks. Starbucks has opted to promote. So I guess if you like something, I might see it in my feed. Listen, I think it's gonna work. Whatever they do, they got to make money. I understand. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm typing to you as we see right now. There we go. Because I can't do both. Let's see what happens with it. It's gonna be interesting. You want to pick a story?
Yeah, let's pick a story. Let me see what's on here that we haven't gotten to quite yet. We did the Galaxy Nexus stuff, the AT&T stuff, which were two big ones that I thought of. You know what I think is kind of interesting is the Google and Firefox deal.
Yeah, considering the fact that Google pretty much competes with Firefox with their Chrome browser, they're taking away massive market share away from Firefox. Firefox is nowhere to the level that they used to be a couple of years ago. I think Chrome has really taken a lot of the market share from them. But
oh yeah,
they just signed an agreement to have it as the default browser. Now, how important is this? Now, in my opinion, Google did this for a number of reasons. Google is paying just under $300 million a year to have the default search engine in Firefox set to Google, compared to around $100 million per year previously. Does it affect Google's business if Firefox goes with Bing? How much is it going to affect their business?
I think it's going to affect them because I think clearly they're worried about something like that. Clearly.
Yeah. And somebody brought it up on Twitter. They were saying, well, why would they want to pay them? How does this affect them? Why don't they just compete with them with the browser? A, they don't want Firefox to collapse because this is another resource for them.
Exactly.
And B, Google does not make too much money from the Chrome browser. They make their money from people going to Google and seeing those ads. So to have another venue for their ads is great for them. There's been much speculation that the partnership is under threat because of the rise of Google's own browser, Chrome, which overtook Firefox last month. I'm reading two things at once and it's not working. Which overtook Firefox last month in terms of worldwide market share. Now, those stats are a little weird depending on where you are and when it's taken, but they have taken over in that market. What do you think of this? Do you think that this is strategic to keep them around? Do you think this is so their default is Google for
I think
as many people as possible?
Strategic in the sense that Bing has been getting very popular over the last year, very popular, and I think they kind of underestimated where Bing was going, and now they're like, we need to do something about this, and I think that's why they ended up tripling the amount of money that they normally give to Mozilla to have Google branded on their searches.
Yeah,
I mean they tripled it to just under $300 million per year to be the default search engine in Firefox, compared to about $100 million the previous year. So obviously they want Google to be the default search engine in Firefox, and they don't want it to be Bing, because if there was rumors that it was going to be switched to Bing and that Mozilla was looking to change it to Bing.
I mean, look at Bing. Bing has 30% of the market share,
and they're growing.
and they're growing,
very,
and that's a
very
lot
quickly.
compared to where they used to be.
Yeah.
You know, Google had 90% of the market share. Now they're
And
down to 70%.
I think it's a good move for Google, honestly.
No, it's a smart move by them, and they need to keep Firefox around. They
Yeah, I
really
think-
do.
I mean, yeah, you can make the argument that the two browsers compete against each other, but it's just so long as the browser is around, I think Google has an interest in keeping Google the default search engine in it.
GoDaddy
Because then
faces
they technically have two search engines, two browsers with their search engine in it.
GoDaddy faces boycott over SOPA support. Now, this came out a couple days ago. GoDaddy, in some weird way, supported SOPA, and then they said, no, we don't support it. They pulled support for SOPA because of the backlash. Not a good year for
what happened
GoDaddy.
is that a bunch of users on Reddit started pulling fire alarms saying, hey, GoDaddy is in support of this Stop Online Piracy Act, and we're against that. So if you're against that, we should all pull together, boycott, and transfer our domains somewhere else other than GoDaddy.
I think they should all go to Hover.
And, yeah, and at first, GoDaddy's response was, we've seen some email and some response to the boycott. We really haven't seen much, and now they've done pretty much a 180, in my opinion, saying, "Oh yeah, we're gonna back off of SOPA in our support of it."
Why did they come out and support it in the first place? I mean, that's a weird thing for them to come out and support.
Well, it's interesting. Let me see if I can find the quote.
I mean,
they
considering
have
the
in their
majority of the
response when
internet
they
is
did the
against
about
it.
face.
Most people are totally against this.
In a statement, the company said that fighting online piracy is of the utmost importance, which is why GoDaddy has been, and I can't see it behind my camera, has been working to help craft revisions to this legislation, but we can clearly do better.
Yeah, so
Adding that it will support new legislation when and if the internet community supports it.
yeah, I think that what they're trying to do is protect their ass on both sides, but in the reality, they're pissing off the consumer. I don't think I have. No, I have about 2 domains left on. No, how many hosting accounts
I
do
think
I
you
have?
have 4.
4. Yeah, 4 hosting, 4 domains. I have 4 domains left, and that's only because my hosting is still with them.
Right.
And we're talking from last year at this time, I probably had over 100. Right?
Yep.
Give or take. Because I have about 180 domains.
You have crazy amount of
I
domains.
know. I have about 180 domains. So I have about 4 left with them. So look at how many domains I've taken from
there
them
was,
and I've transferred.
I don't know if they say it in what. There was one company that said that they have about 1,000 domains that they were threatening to
They got
transfer
I
away
can
from.
it's the ICANN has cheeseburger. Domains.
The cheeseburger CEO guy said it.
Yeah, 1,000 domains. But you're gonna think, well, what's 1,000 domains? But if they're doing 1,000 domains, I've left 100 and something domains from them. Somebody else pulls their domains. You're not buying from them anymore.
Well, look at it. If you look at about 1,000 domains times $8 each, at least.
No, they raised the price too to $12.99 now.
Well, I'm saying at least
$10.
$8.
$10. Let's say $10.
Even if you underestimate the amount per domain, it still comes to be a pretty significant, by most people's standards, amount of money.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're thinking about,
GoDaddy.
$80,000.
GoDaddy did well because first of all, they're not only a hosting company, but they're a domain registrar, and they're cheap. They're extremely affordable, and they still are with their hosting. Their hosting is extremely affordable, but you are taking away quality because we've experienced many issues with GoDaddy. But as far as the hosting goes, as far as the domains go, I should say, people go to GoDaddy because they're cheap, but now they're not so cheap anymore. They're at the same rate that everybody else is. They're about $12.99 now. They've raised their rates.
And everybody uses a coupon code.
Yeah, but you're not getting a $7 domain anymore. That's the truth. That's the fact of the matter.
I think domains in general on all registrars have gone up over the past couple of years.
Yeah, let me
which
see
is
what
sad.
GoDaddy is at. I'm going to go to GoDaddy right now and see. Yeah, because I've been buying everything from Hover. I have no idea. Yeah, so $11.99 now. It's about $11.99. And then you're gonna go there, and they're gonna kick your ass with the private registration. They're gonna kick your ass. I'm doing that for Hover again. They're gonna kick your ass with everything. Then you're gonna leave out there. It's gonna be like $20 for one domain for the year.
There is something to be said in paying more for a service if it gets you a better service.
Yeah, and I'm all for that. I'm all for that. If it
I
gets
think
you
most
better
people
service.
are willing to fork out, if it costs another extra $5 for better service from the company, most people are willing to do that.
I'm looking here actually to the next story, and I do want to go into it. Apple pushing to introduce iPad 3 on Steve Jobs' birthday, February 24th. The time frame makes a lot of sense. This is coming from I think it's called Focus Taiwan, and it's via 9to5Mac. Apple pushing its manufacturers and partners to meet deadlines that would allow the company to launch the iPad on Steve Jobs' birthday. This would make sense because A, the time frame fits the time of the release, and B, it is his last project that he had hands-on experience with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they should necessarily set a deadline like that for the release. They're pushing it up from mid-March, April timeframe to February.
They're probably a company that could do it, though.
They are, but, again, what big changes are we going to see with the next version of the iPad? Is it going to be just another year that they're adding another feature, or is this going to be a major change? Because between the first
I think
iPad
they have
and
to
the
have a
second
major
one,
change.
you think so? Because the iPad 2 is good.
Because the way that Apple's been operating, it's like, even every 2 years, we've been seeing a significant change to the iPhone. You have to refresh the lines and do something different every 2 years, I think, in order to keep people interested in buying something new.
Sure. And they did it last year. You have to remember that. The iPad 2 was a drastic change from the original iPad.
Right.
So I don't know if we're going to see that dramatic change with this one. We might see with the next generation one. That's the issue.
I don't know, because I think they need to do a little bit more. They need to have more than just features and hardware, I think.
Listen, I don't even think they need
come up
to.
with something and they're pretty good at doing something like that, because what we saw with the iPhone this year was that they did Siri. That was their big thing with the iPhone 4S. That was their one thing to get you to buy the phone.
Okay, so we'll see Siri on this one.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think we'll see Siri. I think we'll see the Retina display. I don't think form factor will see major changes. I don't think they'll go thinner. I don't think they'll do that curved glass that we've been seeing. I don't think they'll do a bigger display.
It'd be interesting if they did something like that, though.
It would be, because that's actually breaking the mold of every other year for a major change. I think, you know what they should do? They shouldn't make it every year. They should make it every 18 months, spread it out a little bit, and have major releases. I would love to see a new iPad every 18 months, and I would actually consider buying one every 18 months.
But would they?
Yeah, I don't know. Because
a lot of times these Apple people, and I don't mean to say that in any sort of demeaning way, but people that are really into Apple will go out every single year and buy the latest
and that's
greatest
nutty.
regardless.
Yeah, and that's a nutty thing to do, in my opinion.
Well, of course it is, but it gets them money.
We have a couple months. We have about 3 or 4 months, and we really don't have too much information on this new one. At the same time last year, I remember reading pretty much everything that we were expecting with this iPad.
Right.
That came out, except for the Retina display. I know they were talking about the Retina display. You know what else we'll see? Better cameras. I think we'll see a somewhat of a better camera in these devices.
But you're still talking about hardware changes.
Yeah. You know what it'll do? I think if they add Siri, if they added Retina display and they add better cameras, I think that'll push people to buy it, and they won't have to do a major change in the body, in the form factor.
Yeah, but people will still be disappointed that it doesn't have that one great thing that makes you want to buy it. Because Apple people have come to expect something like that. You have to have that one great thing that people want to buy this device for.
Yeah, I'm looking here. Things that we expect to see.
What's the one big
one?
feature? What's the one major selling point that you just can't live without? You have to have this particular generation because it does this particular thing.
I don't think we're going to see a major change until we get LTE on these devices. And I think that was a major thing holding back the iPhone 5. The fact that they
back
can't
everything at this point is all these. There is a demand for LTE right now, and carriers are pushing LTE. But the problem, particularly, is that these devices aren't ready for consumers and the way that we consume these devices.
I'll tell you, the battery life is atrocious on this phone. It's so bad. It is so bad. If I go out
at the same time,
like right now, I took this out of charge right before the show, so about 45 minutes ago, and I'm at 90%. I've lost 10% on this.
Yeah,
and that's bad.
But at the same time, people want this, and carriers want this. And so these manufacturers are sort of forced into making these devices have these features because that's what the market is demanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So very interesting stuff with that. You want to do one more story and then we go into our picks?
Yeah, let's do one more story. I think there was did we do the RIM and BBM trademark story yet?
No.
So I think that's a little bit interesting, and that's really quick. So just to pile on with RIM's bad news now is that there's a Canadian company called BBM Canada that is now suing RIM over its use of BBM in terms of BlackBerry Messenger.
Now, what do they do? What does BBM Canada do?
I'm not sure. I think they say they do some sort of statistics. Let me see if I can
Canada,
find.
here it is. They do measuring. Yeah, they do stats, measuring audience, delivering intelligence. Yeah, so they do some sort of monitoring for TV and radio.
Yeah, RIM's response is that, well, that's completely different than our instant messaging service, so they don't overlap whatsoever. And they actually have a good case for this, I think, because there's also a company here in the United States. I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but they make agriculture machines. And they also have a patent on the word or the term BBM. At the same time, RIM has one from 2010. So.
Do you think that these people are actually threatened by the fact that BlackBerry is using the brand, or do you think that it's because we saw the failure of BlackBerry?
I think they just wanted to be exclusive to them. But then again, it's like, it's not just RIM that's using the term BBM anymore. It's also the U.S. company that makes these agriculture machines that are also using the term BBM. And the fact that BlackBerry and RIM have been using the term BBM for years. For probably the past, 8-9 years, they've used the term BBM.
Yeah.
So I think in the sense that, well, you didn't say anything for so long, why should it even matter at this point? You've let this go on for a number of years, several years, and you're just now getting around to suing them?
So
fascinating. Like, give me a break. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, very interesting, though.
If you were that uncomfortable that you needed to sue them, well, then you should have done that long ago.
Oh, absolutely. You're absolutely right. So we're going to see where that goes.
There's precedents now where it's like, well, we've already been using this for several years. And we're not the only company using the term BBM. So if you're going to pick on us, you got to pick on them.
It's interesting. So I guess it is time for picks of the week. Are you going to go first with yours, or am I going to go first?
You can go first if you want.
Yeah, you going to pull it up?
Yeah.
Okay, so I will go first.
Do you want the video, or what do you want?
Yeah, you know what? Let me talk about it, and then I'll go into the video.
Okay.
So my pick this week is a platform, and actually this week they just released their app on Android, and they have one on iOS. It's called Spreaker, Spreaker. It's like speaker, but with an R. It's an audio platform for creating and sharing audio content, both live and podcast form. Everyone can host a personal radio station that can be streamed live or listened to through a widget, which is supported by all the major social media mobile platforms. Now, you could also get it on your iPhone, iOS. So pretty much what you do is you could create your own radio station, broadcast live, or you could have something on rotation. If you're a podcaster, or if you're doing internet radio, this is a great feature to have. Now, can you play the video for me?
I can.
There's a little video here kind of explaining what it is and what it does. And if the volume will play there. Nope, not playing.
Well, I have it playing. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Yeah. So, oh, you don't have volume though hooked up.
I don't have it set up to run
Okay.
through Skype. I could do that, but then
Here it is.
Share your music. Wouldn't it be great having your own radio show? Well, of course it would be wonderful. And today, there's a way to make it happen. We call it Spreaker. Spreaker is a free audio platform that allows anyone to create, broadcast, and share a personalized radio show. With Spreaker, you can broadcast live for everyone, everywhere. People will hear your voice when they are driving, working, or running. And with the mobile application, you can be on the air wherever you are. Get ready to turn yourself into a reporter. Give facts in real time.
So it's actually really interesting because you could, and then you can stop playing it. You could pretty much set up a radio station without having to do all the work and having a back end, having a server. You go through them, and they do. Now, there's different packages, of course. There is the pay model, which you pay for a little bit of storage and a little bit of size. Or you could do the free model, which offers you a couple hours a week. And I think the free model is great for people just getting started. The great part of it is that it has an audience, so you're automatically tapping into people that have this installed and have this used. So I could just browse podcasts right now, and let's see, by popular. So I could see a list of all the top podcasts. Or I could do, I could click on Browse Live Podcasts, and you could just go through everything that's broadcasting live right now. It's a cool little service. It's called Spreaker. Check them out. What's the website? Spreaker.com for the website. And it's also check in the Android marketplace and the iOS App Store. And that's Spreaker, and that's my pick of the week. Suncast, what is your pick today?
And my pick of the week for this week is called Elpis. I'm not even sure if I'm saying this right. It's ELPIS. And it's a application that connects to Pandora, Pandora.com, which is a online radio station. I love Pandora. I use it a lot. A lot of times I'm sitting here, I'm doing some work, and I just want to listen to some music, and I don't necessarily have an FM radio here in my room, so I just want a random mix of, whatever's good, and I don't necessarily want to open a browser to do that either. And that's one of the things I like about this program called Elpis. It'll connect to Pandora, and you can see all your information there if you're a subscriber or a free user. For instance, let's play Today's Hits Radio, and it works just like Pandora. It's not the prettiest program out there, but it works.
It's actually,
course,
yeah. We don't want to play
play,
these.
pause, skip. You can rate things thumbs up, thumbs down, and all that stuff. You have settings, which is really cool. You can automatically log in. You can change your audio format from, AAC plus, MP3, 128 kilobytes, or the hi-fi version, which is 192 kilobytes per second, which is pretty cool. And you can also automatically play the last station when you open Elpis. You can check for updates. You can even minimize to the system tray, which is pretty cool because you can minimize this to your system tray, and every time that the song changes, it'll pop up a little notification that let you know what the new song is so that you know what's being played. I like it a lot. We'll save these things, go back to the interface here. You can add new stations, which is pretty cool. There's other features, which is pretty cool as well. You have media key support for your global applications. You can create stations. One of the really cool things about this is that if you're listening to Pandora on their website, after a while, it'll time you out and ask you, are you still listening? Are you sure you're still listening to us? And you have to click a button in order for it to continue playing music. What's really great about Elpis is that it'll automatically reconnect and start playing again when your session times out. So there's no more, are you listening? And you have to click that button anymore.
Oh, that's great.
So that's Elpis. The easiest way to find Elpis is to simply do a Google search or look at the link on our website.
Excellent, Suncast. I appreciate that. This wraps it up for this week's Tech News Weekly. Suncast, what are your plugs? I know you have a website to promote. You have a couple things going on. So what are you promoting?
Yeah, my personal website, Amadeus, which is really cool. It's a music blog discovery website. I got to come up with a tagline for it or something. I like to find people on YouTube that aren't necessarily professional. They're just kind of like amateurs, or they do this just for the fun of it. And they're pretty good singers, but they don't necessarily have a mainstream following. So I like to go on YouTube, find those type of people, and post them on Amadeus. That's spelled AMADAIS.com.
Excellent. And be sure, if you missed any part of the show, you can check it out on our website at guysfromqueens.com. We have it in podcast form, in audio and video form. We're also on iTunes. So you can check us out on iTunes at itunes.com/GFQ. That's our special landing page, so it has all our shows. Be sure to subscribe to us because it helps us out. Next week is our last show for the year, and it will be a year in review show. We'll be joined by Eric Lanigan and possibly another special guest. Stay tuned because Behind the Counter is up next here on the GFQ Network. See you next week, everybody, and Merry Christmas. Good night, everybody.